So this time we will learn about class in Python, or also known as objects. Python is object-oriented programming language, which means everything that is represented in Python will be represented in terms of objects or classes. So whatever we see in Python is a part of some class. You can think class as a blueprint for creating objects. Just now I said everything in Python is part of some class. But we worked with string, float, functions, etc. Do they also belong to some class? Let's see. I'll define my string as this is a string. My num is 22.7, so this is a float. And I'll also define a function. So let's see, do they belong to class or not? So if I run this, I can see that my str, which is a string, is part of some class called str. So str in Python is a class, and all the methods that we do on string, for example, string concatenation or string formatting, they are defined as a method inside this class. Same with float and functions. They also belong to their separate classes. Now let's see the syntax for creating a class. So first I have to use the keyword called class. After that I have to give the class a name, and after name I'll have colon to enter the scope of this class. Once inside the scope of the class, I can define multiple properties for that class. For example, class property 1, 2, etc. Similarly, I can define methods. So what is methods? Methods are basically functions, but when we are defining functions inside a class, for the point of view of the class, we call them the method for that class. And for that also, we will be using the keyword def, and after that the name of the method. And next we put colon, and like a function, we can write any logic in the scope of that method. Now that's enough for syntax. Let's create a class and learn from example. So over here I have created a class called Pokemon. So once inside the scope of this Pokemon class, I can create a property. So I have given this property the name leg count. So next we will create a constructor for this class. What constructor is? Basically some set of default values or a way to initialize the class itself. To write a constructor in Python is we can use the def keyword. So def, after that the constructor should have a specific name. So every class in Python already has a specific constructor, but we want to override the functionality of that constructor. Let's overwrite it. So for that we have to redefine underscore underscore init underscore underscore. So this is the default constructor for any class in Python. Now we can overwrite it and make it our own constructor. Now whenever we are creating a method inside a class, there is something called self. So for every method we have to pass the reference for that class itself. So over here if I write self, so first parameter that will be passed to any method in this class is that instance of that class. So what is an instance? I will come back to very soon. But for now, remember like this, that the first argument to any method of a class will be the reference to that instance, which is self over here. And this data will be available throughout your instance of the class. So what I can do is self dot name, which I can say no name. So this is my initial value for this variable. It can be anything. I can also write none over here. So it does not matter what the initial value is, unless you are doing some specific calculation which requires the initial value to be something specific. So next I will define some attacks for our Pokemon. Now over here I have created attacks, which is a dictionary, and as you can see there are 3 attacks. And lastly let's define health for the Pokemon. So that's it, my constructor is ready. So let's move on to writing some methods for this class. So as I mentioned just now, attack is the method of this class called Pokemon. So whatever is the first argument that will be passed to this attack method is the reference to the class itself. So I have to put self over here. So this method will take any attack key. So ATK underscore 0, ATK underscore 1 or special, these are our keys, and accordingly it will print what is the value of that attack. So let's define another method. So the damage method will take any damage value and subtract that value from the remaining health, and this check health will return the value of self.health. So right now we have a class. So let's make an instance of that class. To create an instance of the class, I have to give it a variable name. Pichu is my variable name and I have assigned Pichu as the class Pokemon. So Pichu is an instance of the class Pokemon. Now if we explore some properties of Pichu, let's see. So as you can see that Pichu.legCount is returning 4, which I have set in the class property. Now if I want to see the name, let's see. I can see that the no name is showing. So let's fix that. Now I have assigned the name Pichu to that Pichu.name instance variable. So as you can see, Pichu has been updated inside the instance of the Pokemon. So there is a better way to assign this name whenever we are creating an instance of the class itself. Inside the constructor we can take in variables. So over here I will take in name and I will do self.name equals to name. Now, whenever I am creating this class, I have to pass in the argument. The self argument is automatically passed to the init by this class itself. So we don't need to think about that. So whatever we want to pass is in the next in line, which is name. Now if I run this, as you can see that name has been updated through the constructor. Let's create another instance of this same class. So I have created the instance of Pokemon class called Mew. Now Mew will have the same properties as Pichu, but there is a key difference. If I print Mew.name and Pichu.name, we can see that the correct ones are being printed in the correct order. So the instance of Pokemon which is called Pichu and the instance of Pokemon which is called Mew are not dependent on each other. So we can think of them as two different identical shelves, but the content inside those shelves are different. So let's try to call a method from this class. Now I will use Pichu's attack 0 and I will store that value of that attack in a variable. After that I will do Mew.damage, then I will pass in whatever the attack 0 is for Pichu and I will check what is the health of Mew after that attack. So I'll actually put what is the health of Mew before the attack also. So if I do this, looks like I have made a slight error. So instead of print, I have to do return over here. So I want the damage to be returned. And now if I run this, as you can see that before the health of Mew was 100. And after the attack, which is attack 0 for Pichu, so that was value of 10. So from 100, 10 should get subtracted inside this damage method and we can see that the remaining health of Mew is 90. So using these dots after the instance of the class, you can call any method from that class. And if you have noticed or not, these variables are actually data which are consistent throughout the use of this class instance. So using class, you can create your custom data type. Here, Pokemon is my custom data type. With this information, also with the provided methods. And this is an example of a class. There are many more things in class. So I will be splitting this up into multiple sections. So that's it for this video. Next time we will learn more about class. Thank you.